Okay, so we're talking about the area of a circle today. Yesterday we were doing circumference, and we talked about the parts of the circle that were new to us, like the radius and the diameter. Today when we're finding the area is typically in terms of radius. And so the radius goes from the center of our circle to the outside of our circle. So sometimes you're going to have diameter, and sometimes you're going to have radius, but we need A equals pi r squared. We're going to square that r to make it area. So if we have diameter, we need to know that diameter divided by 2 is going to give us our radius. All right, so to find the area of each circle using pi is 3.14. We're going to start with area equals pi times the radius squared. Area equals 3.14 times the radius, which is 6.8 squared. Area equals 145.1936, and of course it tells us to round to the nearest tenth, so area equals 145.2 meters. But it's not just meters, this is area. This is how much space is in this entire circle. So these are going to be square meters inside the circle. Yeah, I know. All right, this next one I want you to give a try on your own, so be sure you pause the video. All right, so we're back and you have written area equals pi r squared. Always start by writing your formula so you don't get mixed up or forget something. So area equals 3.14 times the radius, which is 3, squared. Area equals 28.26, and if you round that correctly, you're going to get 28.3. Now, did you put square feet? Because if you didn't, that's going to be half point off, so make sure that your units are on properly. This last one, I want you to go ahead and find the area for this if this were a whole circle, and then think about what you would do to it to get a half instead. Go ahead and pause the video and give it a try. So for finding area of the circle, we have pi, which is 3.14, times the radius, which is 14, and you square that. So the area of the entire circle is 615.44. Now I'm not going to round it yet. I'm always going to round at the very end. But since I have only half of this circle, what can I do to get half of 615 and 44/100ths? Well, I can divide it by 2, or I can times it by half. They'll both give me the same answer. So if I divide by 2, I'm going to get the area of this semicircle, this half circle, is 307.72, or 307 7/10. And my unit up here is yards, and since I'm talking about area, it's yards squared. So you must have that little 2 here, or an SQ that says you're talking about square units. Just like when we talk about the area or the perimeter of a rectangle, area is going to be maybe feet squared, and the perimeter is going to be feet. Now, I want you to give these ones a try on your own. Okay, so you're going to plug these together just like we have with the others. Area equals 3.14 times the radius, which is 2, squared. Area equals 12.56 square inches. Area equals 12.6 square inches. The center round area equals pi r squared. We have the radius, so we're good to go. Area equals 3.14 times 16 squared. Area equals 803 and 84/10. Area equals 803.8 inches squared. This last one is much like the one that was above us, but instead of giving us the radius, it actually gives us the diameter. The diameter for this semicircle is 100. If the diameter is 100 and the radius is half of that, then our radius is half of 100, which is 50. That's important because we need radius in our area formula. If you pop in diameter, you are going to get that wrong answer. Area equals 3.14 times radius, which we just calculated to be 50, and square that. It's going to be 7,850 centimeters squared. But that's the area of the entire circle if it was huge like this. So what did we need to do to make sure that we take that area and divide it in half? So divide by 2, the area is going to give you 3,925 centimeters squared. Beautiful. So these are just some basic plugins. The one you're going to want to pay attention to is if they give you this entire diameter, you need to cut it in half to find the radius. So let's go to the back and talk about some word problems. Apply this to real life here. Pizza, yes, that's what I'm talking about. All right, so I've got the area of a large cheese pizza from Pizza Hut. The whole area, the whole thing is 803.84 square inches. See, I'm drawing a picture. It's always my recommendation. When there are no pictures, draw them so you can figure out what's going on here. What is the circumference of the pizza? What? The circumference is all the way on the outside. These aren't even related very much to each other, are they? They are related. They both use radius. They both use diameter. So in this case, we've got to get from area, and then we got to figure out what the diameter is, or the radius is, and then we need to plug it back in to our circumference. So first of all, area equals pi r squared, correct? Well, that's fine. The good news is we know what the area is. So let's just plug that in. 803.84. That equals, we know what pi is, 3.14. And we don't know what the radius squared is, okay? So to solve this, don't be scared of that r squared yet, because I'll walk you through it. To solve this, we need to divide by 3.14 because that's going to isolate our variable of r squared. That's going to give us r squared equals 803.84 divided by 3.14 is going to be 256. All right, now here's the problem. Some number times itself is going to equal 256. And we haven't talked very much about the square root of numbers, so let me give you a little bit of information here. If we have 3 and we square it, that's 9. But what if we try to get backwards? What if we go from the 9 to the 3 squared? If you take 9 and you're trying to figure out what numbers can be squared, we call that the square root. And square root has a symbol that looks a little bit like a division sign. It looks like this. So if we find the square root of 9, it equals 3. So it's like going backwards and forwards here. So you can actually find the square root of anything, almost. And since this is squared, if we go ahead and write the square root of r, won't that give us r? Yes, because r times r is r squared. So if anything we do to the right, we've got to do to the left. So we're going to end up with the square root, the number that's multiplied twice to get r squared is actually just r, because r times r is r squared. But we don't know what 256, what the square root of that is, and don't mess yourself up trying to figure it out. You have a calculator for this. So you're going to put, see this x squared button? It makes sense that the opposite of the x squared button is actually in purple there, or whatever color yours is, it is the square root button. So to get there, we're going to do second x squared. And now you've got a spot to put in your number 256. And when you press enter, you find 16. So our radius is 16 inches, because we unsquared those inches. So I'm going to add that back to my picture, because r doesn't make as much sense unless I draw it over here. Now, if that's the radius, their question isn't what's the radius. We solved for what we didn't know. Their question is, what is the circumference? Well, can we find the circumference if we have the radius? Well, sort of. What is circumference? Circumference equals pi times d. Okay. Well, do we know what pi is? Yes. Do we know what d is? Not specifically, but can we figure it out? Absolutely. Diameter goes all the way through the circle. So if one part of the diameter, the radius, is 16 inches, and this half is 16 inches, then if we add those things together, what do we get? 16 plus 16 is 32. So our diameter for this is 32 inches. That's awesome. Now I know everything that I need to know to find the circumference. So circumference equals pi, which is 3.14, times the diameter of the circle, which we calculated to be 32. And when we multiply those out, we get c equals 100.48. Rounding, we get 100.5 inches. Not inches squared, because remember the circumference is the distance around the circle. The area is the amount of space in here. Area is two-dimensional, height and a width, so we need those inches squared. Circumference is just a line, it's just a measurement. So this is the area and the circumference of that circle. All right, this one right here is very similar. They're giving us the circumference of a circular pool. So this pool, C equals 31.4 meters. You look at that number and you're like, well, that's just one number. How could I possibly figure out something that's missing? But that's where pi comes into play. So we know that C equals pi times d. We don't know the d. We don't know what the diameter is, but we're going to need the radius in order to find out what they really want to know, which is what is the area of the top of that pool. So we're going to take the circumference and pop it in here. 31.4 equals, I know what pi is. And the great thing is, on this problem, unlike this one, we don't have to do any square rooting or anything funky. We can just go ahead and divide by 3.14 on both sides. 31.4 divided by 3.14 should be 10. 10 equals the diameter. Now that we know that the diameter is 10, you know me, I'm going to write it into my picture so that I can think about my next step. And my next step is, what is the area of the pool? Area equals pi r squared. Remember, you have a sheet that gives you this information, all of the area formulas for all of the shapes we're going to be talking about. So you don't need to memorize that, but I bet you're going to get really close after homework today. Area equals pi, which is 3.14, r squared. I left it r because I really don't know what the radius is. So if my diameter is 10, what is just this half of my diameter? It's 5. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So the radius is 5 meters. Let's plug that in. Area equals 3.14 times 5 squared. 3.14 times 5 squared is 78.5. These are, since it's area, this is going to be square meters. I know that because my original circumference was in regular meters. So that means this is meters, and this is square meters. All right. This last one has to do with comparing some prices and some unit rates. So this is pretty real world here. Harry's Pizzeria is having a sale on medium and large pizzas. So medium pizzas are 10 inches in diameter. Is this a diameter? Nope, that's a radius. So I need to make sure my picture matches what they're telling me. 10 inches, okay? And this costs $7.99. And then we have large pizzas over here. And the large pizza are 14 inches in diameter. Again, diameter goes through the center, so that's 14 inches. This one costs more, which makes sense, $14.99. But the question is, which size of pizza is a better deal? This reminds me of some of my other chapters where we're talking about comparing the cost per square inch if we're trying to find which size pizza is a better deal. We want to know, if it's $7.99 for this whole thing, how much is it for just one little part? We can get the dollars per inch, per square inch, and it gives you a hint. Find the cost per square inch of each pizza. So let's do that. The area over here is pi r squared. Area equals pi, which is 3.14. And what is the radius of this pizza? Yep, half of 10. That's 5 inches. So 5 squared. Area equals 3.14 times 5 squared, which is 78.5 inches squared. This is the area. Let's do the area of the large pizza. The area of the large pizza is also pi r squared, but this time 3.14 is going to be multiplied by the radius of this pizza, and that's 7 inches if I turn that into half. So 3.14 times 7 squared is going to give you an area of 153.86 inches squared. And I'm not going to round that because, again, I really don't have my answer quite yet. So this is the area of the medium pizza. It's definitely less than the area of the large pizza, but is it less money per inch that's squared, per square inch? So the way we find that is to find a unit rate. Remember, a unit rate, we usually put the money on the top and we divide by whatever the second unit is on the bottom. So it's going to be $7.99 for 78.5 square inches for the medium. So that's going to be 7.99 divided by 78.5 gives me 0.101 over 1 inch. And this is money. So essentially we're talking about like 10 cents per inch, about. I'm not going to round too much over here too. I could even put another decimal point if I want, because I don't know how close these prices are going to be, but I'll find out here pretty soon. This is going to be 14.99. That whole price is for 153.86 inches squared. These are square inches. So if I divide those, 14.99 divided by 153.86, that's going to give me 0.0974 per 1 inch, square inch, and that's money. So, okay, almost 10 cents, a little bit over 10 cents per square inch. So essentially they're the same price. But if you really want to get down to it, the medium is the best buy. All right, so make sure that when you're working on your homework, you're writing down the area ones. These two are going to be the hard ones, so have your notes out with you. You could always rewatch this video when you're trying to get from area all the way to circumference or circumference to area.